Hello and welcome to the Metropolitan Elites, where we dissect the week's news from a lefty sneering point of view in our ivory towers and just regurgitate the views of our lizard overlords. The bloody Illuminati.
At the time of recording,
The debates
they've had their big debate, and it hasn't finished yet, so they haven't had the vote yet, so we don't know which way it's gone.
Although we're pretty sure we know which way it's going to go.
Yeah. But we should start with saying that David Cameron is a lying piece of shit.
Said very clearly, no plans to increase VAT.
There will be no more of those pointless reorganisations that aim for change but instead bring chaos.
Clearly there are some people who are worried that you have a plan to cut child credit and tax credits. Are you saying absolutely as a guarantee
To me,
that it
child
would never
benefit,
happen?
first of all, child tax credit, we increased by £450.
And it's not going to fall?
Not going to fall.
I think that's the best way to put it. We mentioned last week about the 70,000 Syrian
Ghost
moderates.
armies.
I summon you to fulfill your oath.
None but the King of Gondor may command me.
Ghost army, yeah, and then there's some general making some comment or something, and then someone else has said, well, he said 40,000 of those people are actually extremists. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, but we can't talk about it because it's secret. We know it's there, but you can't see it. Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah, don't believe a word of it. It's happened before, well, we believe it now.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. We're in the throes of such extreme spin, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And David Cameron has said, everyone who doesn't support this particular proposal for bombing without thinking about it, rather than planning it and things like that, is a terrorist sympathiser. And so far he's refused to apologise. There'll be some spin, probably by the time you watch this, that somehow he's got out of it. And
Well, Hammond has sort of retracted slightly. He said, I wasn't there at the time, but as I understand it, what I think he was saying was that people like Ken Livingstone are terrorist sympathisers.
Interest. We need to get China and India and other countries on board so it's seen as the world standing up to something of pure evil.
Oh, he just meant Ken Livingstone.
Yeah.
Well, no one likes him, so that's okay then.
Yeah.
So you can lie massively about people, it's alright.
Yeah.
And apparently, what was the other one?
The RAF have been striking with the permission of Parliament in Iraq for over a year now, and our estimate is there hasn't yet been a single civilian casualty.
And apparently that is just fiction. And the most accurate number is about 300 and something.
Yeah.
But we don't really know, because there's areas that ISIS have control of that we haven't got a lot of observation of. But there's definitely been civilian casualties. He's just lying.
Yeah. If you want, if you're interested in that sort of thing, airwars.org are an independent organisation which are trying to track casualties, and they publish their methodology, how they do it. So they don't just say there's a report of 200 civilians being killed here, and they just add 200 to the number. They actually try and verify with strikes that the coalition has verified have taken place and stuff like that, so that it's very difficult to get an accurate figure, but in their estimation they give you an idea of how many strikes are being carried out and how many civilian deaths there are, and indeed how many terrorists have been popped off.
Yeah.
So that's a useful thing. There are facts out there which you would struggle to comprehend if you listen to some of the debates. It all seems very subjective and woolly, and it's a sort of, it's kind of spun, and it's a bit of a balancing act as which way you go.
Yeah. I mean, but this, and obviously Cameron is Blairite, and we're really seeing he really is Blairite. He has a Blair complex. You remember when Blair stood down, and all the Labour Party stood up and applauded. Maybe they were applauding him standing down. I don't know. and the response, for obviously, the Tories on the opposition benches didn't stand up. Obviously, they wouldn't applaud him. Cameron got up and said, "Yeah, come on, applaud him," because he sees Blair as well. I've just got to do that, and he aspires to be Blair. Now, it turned out, obviously, Blair's known for all the spin and all that stuff. as far as we can see, Blair really believed it. That was the problem. It didn't matter what the evidence was, he believed it. So does that mean Cameron believed it, though it's okay to lie and bullshit and just be an absolute scumbag?
I can't see that personally. I think he knows he's lying. It has become such a opaque thing now, the truth, in with regards to government and well, I don't like to use the word propaganda, but that's essentially what it is. Yeah. That I don't think he has any sense, as long as he can loosely couple it with the truth in some way.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. Or if he's lying and there's no possible way that you can prove he's lying, that doesn't matter either.
Yeah. But I don't. I mean, is he really doing this? That he's really trying to justify some bombing for political gain, just for PR? It's not. He's trying to get out of going on loose women or something. This is bombing. This is, you know.
Well, I think
he seems to be playing it just like he plays everything else.
Well, I mean, if you're really cynical, you could say this is incredibly convenient for David Cameron.
Shapps has resigned as a minister over claims he didn't take allegations of bullying in the youth wing of the Conservative Party seriously enough.
But because apparently Mr. Cameron has difficulty to agree with himself on the content, but he has already an agreement with himself on the date and on the place for his historic speech. Because it has to be an historic speech on Friday on the future of Europe.
The Chancellor left for the Commons knowing he was about to make one of the biggest U-turns of his career to try to repair his dented reputation. He had been expected to make massive cuts to government spending while softening controversial benefit reductions.
One of the doctors, and tell me who you are, where you work.
Hi, my name's Tavan Astor. I'm a junior clinical fellow at Wexham Park Hospital.
And what concerns you about this contract?
And there's a couple of things that I think concern myself and most of my colleagues about this contract. First of all, the contract removes certain fundamental safeguards for the number of hours that we work every single week.
All these problems sort of go away
if he has a war.
That is just a matter of pure convenience. Rupert Murdoch called David Cameron lucky, and I believe there is an element of luck to him. It solves a lot of political problems for David Cameron in the short term.
Yeah, and the awful truth is, he has to win politically. So if there's people on the opposition saying, we're not opposing military action, don't just randomly bomb though, we've got to plan this, we've got to get all the other countries involved, etc, etc. And he's saying, no, you can't do that. It seems the only reason he would say that is for political gain. Why else would you do it? The only way he gets anything out of it is to not work with those people and agree with them. He'll say, no, you're actually terrorist sympathisers, and so we have to randomly bomb without thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most disheartening things about it is, in my mind, I mean, I think, no, we shouldn't do this. I mean, I remember 9/11. Yeah, I remember the day, as most of us do quite clearly.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, I hope we use this as the opportunity to sort this problem out, actually do something about it, instead of fly off the handle and make things 10 times worse.
Yeah, and everyone said, if you go into Iraq, it will make it worse. And now people are saying, yeah, we know we shouldn't have gone into Iraq, but you're not allowed to talk about the outcome of that.
Very conveniently, I often find, we hear very little about America's own responsibility in this conflict, in this problem. Isn't it the case, General, that there would be no ISIL today in Iraq if the US hadn't invaded and occupied Iraq in 2003?
Yeah, I think that looking back, there were a number of strategic errors that were made. You have to look back.
You're a terrorist sympathiser if you talk about the outcome of that.
Ridiculous. And
it's just so horrible. It's so dark, isn't it? That they've got away with it again.
Yeah. It just seems. The thing I've noticed about David Cameron is he's been he's been Prime Minister for 6-7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he said anything in 6 or 7 years. Literally nothing. You listen to his speech in the House of Commons. He is literally moving his lips, saying words.
Yeah.
And when you put them all together,
thousands of words have been written about the new Labour leader. But you only really need to know one thing. He thinks the death of Osama bin Laden was a tragedy. No. A tragedy is nearly 3,000 people murdered one morning in New York. A tragedy is the mums and dads who never came home from work that day. A tragedy is people jumping from the towers after the planes hit. My friends, we cannot let that man inflict his security-threatening, terrorist-sympathising, Britain-hating ideology on this country we love.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's pure, hollow, vacuous.
Yep, the man who worked in PR.
Basically, that's what it is. And this guy's leading the drumbeat for war, and unfortunately, because there are a cadre of Labour MPs who hate Jeremy Corbyn even more than ISIL, it looks like he's going to get away with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's the problem. And it's like you said, it's just luck. Yeah. He's just got into a political position where he wanted to go in Syria. It's almost like it didn't matter who he was attacking in Syria. We just need to go into Syria. He needs to have his war.
He's made the same mistake this time as he did last time. There is an amazing amount of unity around this issue.
We are open to a government motion about airstrikes if there is
against
a proper
IS, against IS targets.
If there is a proper strategy behind it.
You're going to defeat this horrendous ISIL. You've got to have tens of thousands of troops on the ground. Look what happened with that awful mistake of the Americans bombing a hospital. How many more fanatics did that recruit for ISIL? I mean, bombing is too indiscriminate. You need troops there finding the terrorists.
British troops?
As part of a broad coalition, yes, and with UN backing.
It has to be done about Daesh, as we're calling them now.
Yeah.
That's a big
Obviously.
yeah.
Nobody's saying we shouldn't do anything.
Everyone wants to do something, but rather than focus that unity in a common project to get this sorted, he's managed to make
it into
a division.
Still trying to make this pretend division that isn't there.
And he's done that by rushing in, by not considering what the problem is, not considering how we can sort it out. It's we've got to do something, and if we don't do anything, that's doing nothing, and that's terrible. Well, the reason he lost the first vote to bomb in Syria was because he rushed in. If he'd waited a week, the inspectors would have gone in and would have reported back, and then the evidence would have been there that something has to be done. But instead, he got Parliament back before there was any information there and asked for authority to bomb in Syria. Well, when it became clear that that wasn't going to happen, he said, okay, I'm asking for permission to leave the option of bombing Syria open on the cards to combat Parliament. And he lost so much credibility that he lost that vote.
Yeah.
And that rebounded into America, and America sort of
went out as well.
Yeah.
But it's a good job they didn't.
The question before the House today is how to respond to one of the most abhorrent uses of chemical weapons in a century.
Well, yeah.
We'd be in a much worse situation now if we'd done that one.
Yeah.
ISIL
will own Syria.
Yeah. I mean, if someone automatically supports war, well, we need war. I don't understand that. It seems like that there are people who always, if there's the suggestion of let's go to war, yes, we need war. It doesn't seem to make any sense. It seems like there's people actually like that.
Yeah. Some Labour MPs they've been quite disappointed actually. Tom Watson's written a letter to David Cameron asking for more letters, but he came out very early on in last weekend saying that basically he intends to vote with the government on this. If those prominent Labour MPs had listened to the arguments, as I can only assume Jeremy Corbyn is saying, because it's the arguments he's made in several interviews, that David Cameron hasn't made the case, and insist that David Cameron makes the case, and insist that there's a diplomatic plan put in place to sort this out, I'm pretty sure they would have got it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think David Cameron's so desperate to pat smooth over his what he thought was a loss of or a damaging to his legacy over the last Syria vote that he would have easily given Labour what they wanted in order to
Yeah, but he wants that opposition there.
Yeah.
Because that's the way the media can spin it, and then they play along with him, and etc.
The right in the Labour Party have completely lost their heads.
Yeah.
They are like a jilted lover. They're sort of...
Yeah.
They're just not thinking reasonably. They're not reacting to what Jeremy Corbyn or say his allies in the party are saying. They're just acting off the hoof as if this is a left-wing conspiracy to overtake the party. If they get emails from constituents begging them not to go to war, that this is bullying. You know, Facebook campaign, bullying. You know, a Facebook campaign is now bullying.
Yeah.
Sending an email is now bullying.
You're disagreeing with someone. Well, you're bullying and you're a terrorist. You've disagreed with us.
Dropping bombs on someone, that's fine.
Yeah, we need to
It's a
drop bombs on
necessary
people.
evil. Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's hospitals or what it is. We need to bomb people.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So, it is a very, very sorry state of affairs. It could have been avoided, and there could have been a lot of unity. And
he's played a stupid game to win his popularity contest, his PR nonsense.
Yeah, you've only got to listen to people who have had anything to do with the region. Robert Fisk, Peter Ford, former UK ambassador to Syria, the German journalist Jürgen Turnhofer. He was the first guy. He spent 10 days with ISIS. He was the first sort of Western journalist to actually experience ISIS. He says this is basically ISIL or Daesh's wet dream.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
this is exactly what they want.
Exactly. It doesn't. Why do they want to do exactly what the terrorists want them to do?
Anyone who's had anything to do with the region know that this is the wrong course of action.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, the Foreign Affairs Committee has voted. It was the 7 of them, and it was 4-3. But 4 of them have said Cameron hasn't put his case forward. I assume 3 of them are what do you call them, hawks.
Yeah.
And they're generally pro-war anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not that those 4 people don't want war. Even Jeremy Corbyn said, well, I need to listen to the proposals. There aren't any proposals.
Yeah.
It just says, well, bomb. 70,000 people magically appear.
Yeah.
But we can't tell you about it because it's a secret.
I mean, Margaret Beckett has come forward with an argument this evening that France asked us to bomb, and how would it feel if it was the other way around? And we asked France to get involved, and we refused. Well, firstly, I'm pretty sure that request was part of a diplomatic agreement between the government and France.
Roddy, I want the President of St George's Island to extend an invitation to Britain to send an airborne battalion on a goodwill visit. No, just a friendly gesture. Goodwill. Yes, at once, please. Thank you.
Please, can you ask us to come in? It makes the argument easier. But regardless of that really shouldn't have a bearing on a moral choice such as this. Yeah. Imagine you went to court, for a murder, and you were involved with the murder of someone, and you said to the judge, well, my mate asked me to come along.
Well, yeah, that's not just fair.
Does that let you off the hook?
Well, the answer to that is we work with France and loads of other countries. It's got to be countries in the Middle East, it's got to be countries in the East, and it's got to be Russia, and it's got to be everyone. It can't be the West saying, well, we need to change this. I think William Hague was talking about, well, we need to think about partitioning Syria and Iraq into half each. What? We don't.
The job.
They need to do. We don't. It's not for us to. And that's the problem. That's exactly the problem. That's what.
If France, if this was a genuine request from France, that puts us in a prime negotiating position to say, yeah, we'll join.
Yeah.
Let's
work together and sort this out properly.
As the diplomatic channels are sorted, the diplomatic solutions there, the political solutions there. What are we going to do about the refugees in Turkey? All that sorted. But instead we just, yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah,
we'll be there.
I mean, before I've said, I'm not going to pretend I've got a solution here, but it does seem to me we have to work with Assad. And we have to get, the other factions, whatever they are, we have to get them round the table with Assad. We have to do that now. They have to work together, and then everyone's in it together to get rid of ISIS, surely.
Maybe. I think that's a little bit far down the road. I think maybe this is obviously a lot more complicated than anything I've ever dealt with, but in my experience, when something seems so complicated, you start solving the problems around the edges, and actually the solution presents itself. It just arises out of the situation. So
yeah, you don't jump into the middle and punch someone.
Yeah,
problem solved.
Jeremy Corbyn has rightly said, who's funding ISIS, who's buying the oil, who's supplying the arms, that kind of thing. You start blocking off those channels, and you find that actually a solution will hopefully present itself. If not, when we do put boots on the ground, if we are going to sort this out, ISIS won't be so well funded and won't be so well armed.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what the conspiracy theorists are saying, aren't they? Where do they get this stuff from? You know, there's videos of them they're all wearing expensive trainers and things like that don't quite add up. And you know, the conspiracy theorists would say, I should be wearing my tinfoil hat. You know, there's a conspiracy
that we never went to the moon.
But they'd also say, you know, about where these guns are coming from, where the oil's coming from, etc. That's what they're talking about. And you know, some people think it's Assad has created it. That I heard there was someone on Radio 4 who actually implied that actually a couple of years ago Assad said, right, if you mess with me, I'm going to make this worse. That's what he said, and then it bit. So there's a conspiracy theorist there. There was something about Turkey actually, and obviously there's loads of stuff about the US doing it.
Putin was making the allegation that the reason Turkey shut down the plant was because they were protecting their oil supply from the region.
That's the main reason people shoot down planes, isn't it?
Yeah, who knows? But we can shed light on this.
Can we?
Well, we can't, but
we can't. Sorry.
The international community can shed light on this. We can find out who's supplying ISIS with funds, where they're selling their money, where they're getting the guns from, which banks are allowing it to happen.
In which case, isn't this our only explanation? Is a conspiracy theory for why we need to bomb and don't look over there.
Yeah, possibly.
Hope not.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting you had another sort of revelation. Well, I suppose revelation. There was Michael Flynn. He was the US Special Forces commander or chief during the Iraq War. And he's basically said there would be no IS now if it wasn't for Iraq. We were too dumb and we acted rationally. We were so charged with emotion after 9/11 that we didn't take the opportunity to stop and think and actually do what was required.
What everybody said would happen.
I mean,
that's not sympathising with terrorists. It's the opposite of sympathising with terrorists, because the people saying it are the people who aren't terrorists and don't want to blow people up.
We're in quite a unique position actually, because we made that mistake along with the US, Iraq. So we should be, you know, as an ally and a friend, we should be saying, don't rush in. We've been there. It doesn't work.
Instead, it's
we'll help you make the same mistakes all over again.
Yeah. It's amazing how you know, not very long since Iraq, is it?
Strange. There you go. It's not all doom and gloom. The fact is that UK airstrikes will change very little. There's very little we can add to it. The Americans and the French. I think the French actually did 2 bombing missions last week.
Yeah.
The problem is they've got a lack of targets.
Yeah.
This is, as Gerald Kaufman said. I don't always agree with Gerald Kaufman, but you know he does say what he said quite forcefully. Yeah. He doesn't agree with gesture politics, and this is a gesture, which is what it is.
Yeah.
That's it. Syria for a while.
Yeah. Dark stuff. Sorry. Hopefully next week we'll have some light stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and Grant Shapps. He resigned, didn't he? Oh no, but don't talk about that. No, go. Okay. See you next week.